Because that's all it is.
It's Tiffy time.
And that is all it's gonna be.
Toodles!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of For the Love of Wrestling. I am, of course, your host, the Renegade of Wrestling, JJ Williams. Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody is having a good day so far today. Looks like we got Walter in the chat room. Good to see you, bro. Jeff is here. Wake against his will, but definitely interested in what he had to miss last night. Last night was a really good show. We had two matches from the Dusty Classic. We have the semis are all set now, getting ready to go. We had a battle royal that turned into a fatal four-way for contendership to Lyra Valkyria's women's title. We had Obafemi cutting a promo about his victory. Just so much good stuff, and we're going to get into all of that here right now. The show kicked off with Trick Mello versus Malik Blade and Edris Enofi, and this was a Dusty Classic match. See who was going to advance to the semifinals. Great tag team action to kick off our show this week. Enofe had some Dusty Rhodes inspired gear, put his own little twist on it. He had long tights. One leg was black, one was yellow. The yellow leg had black polka dots. The black leg had yellow polka dots. Malik Blade had some black and yellow polka dots. I want to say it was on like a shawl or something, like a jacket he was wearing to the ring, but he obviously didn't wrestle in that. So definitely paying tribute to the man whose name is on the tournament here, Dusty Rhodes, baby. And this was just a banner of a tag team match. Trick Mello Game came out on top, as they do. Trick got the pinfall. And I agree with you, Walter. NXT gets better and better every week. Very rarely do they have a run-of-the-mill episode like Raw does. We then had Kelly Kincaid backstage talking with Fallon Henley about the upcoming Battle Royal and what she's going to try to accomplish within it. We then had highlights of Dragon Lee going back to Deadline, dethroning Obafemi, I'm seeing Jeff's comment, which I'll get to when we get to that segment. Yawning and trying to read. Forgive me. Still tired. Highlights of Dragon Lee going back to Deadline, dethroning Dominic Mysterio, what his reign has been up until last week, and then Obafemi's cash-in and victory. All going to set up the next major segment. But before that, we had Lola Vice and Elektra Lopez arrive at the Performance Center, and Tatum Paxley kind of pops in randomly out of nowhere, jump scare, catches them off guard, as all three are going to be in the Battle Royal later on this evening. We then had our Obafemi promo, and this was just so good. You know, he goes on this diatribe about where he's come from and where he's going, and saying that he is backed by destiny. Again, no doubt reminding us that he is a bad MFer. At this point, Dragon Lee comes out and asks if Obafemi is going to continue the open challenges. And Obafemi says no, the days of the open challenges are over. But regardless, Dragon Lee wants his rematch. That's a good question, Walter. What happened to Dragon Lee's SmackDown run? He's been on NXT every week. I think it's just been while this has been going on. You know, he was a last-minute replacement for the North American title. Had his run, and now that he's lost the title, he'll be there He'll probably get his rematch at Vengeance Day. And then I think we should see him back on the SmackDown roster. Try to get some caffeine in me so I don't yawn so much. That's a fair point, and we'll get more into that in a little bit, Jeff. So I'm going to go ahead and start that so I can come back to it. We then had Eddie Thorpe in the men's locker room. Hank and Tank are there. And Trey Bearhill comes in. And Trey Bearhill and Eddie Thorpe start bonding over their Native American heritage. Dijak comes in and he attempts to punk them out, but the two of them kind of like rally together to put Dijak in his place, and we get a match set up between Trey Bearhill and Dijak for later on in the evening. We then have another segment backstage with Trick Mellow Game, and Ilya Dragunov comes in. He looks like he's back. He looks like he's healthy. Looks like he's ready to go. Tells Trick that he will get his title match at Vengeance Day. So, going back to this, I've said for a minute that I feel like the tournament was going to be what caused the rift between Trick and Mello to really come to fruition. Now, I'm wondering if they're not going to win the tournament, though. Build toward Trick 2 belts, and then they've still got 2 months between Vengeance Day and Stand and Deliver for them to lose the tag titles and go on. Or are they going to lose the title match for the tag titles and then Mello pulls the trigger on Trick because he feels like Trick was too weak? Either way, I feel like the tournament is in fact going to be the make or break scenario here. And I appreciate that, Walter. I just feel bad because it seems like every time I'm on here, I end up yawning a ton. 2 title Trick. Yeah, that's a mouthful for sure. So from there, we get Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley in a tag match against Lola Vice and Elektra Lopez. And this was just a fun tag match. I didn't take anything that was happening here way too seriously. Tatum Paxley came out dressed like Lyra Valkyria. It was very entertaining but creepy to watch at the same time. Tatum Paxley actually got the victory for her and Lyra. So, can Lyra really trust Tatum now since she got the victory for her? Or is it one of those things where it's like, trying to bring them in closer so you can betray them? I tend to think the latter. It's better storytelling, but we'll see what goes down here in recent weeks. What's going on, Emmanuel? Good to see you. That's fair, Jeff. We then go to the women's locker room after that match, and we see Ariana Grace giving a speech about the importance of the Battle Royal and what it means to all the women and being victorious. That one was actually fitting. That's what I felt about her speech. But at the end of the day, the entire locker room walked out on her as she's given her speech. She ends it by saying something about considering them all her sisters, and she goes to turn around and there's nobody in the locker room with her anymore. They've all abandoned her. Definitely an interesting segment, but it is what it is. We then saw a video from NXT Anonymous shooting the women from Chase U as JC talks about how good the girls did, picking up from the Anonymous video from last week. Still not really sure what it is that's JC's plan, what it is that they were doing, but whatever it was, JC feels like the women did a good job and even pulls one of them back to talk to her after Thea and the rest of them kind of filter out there. We then had Ridge Holland versus Joe Coffey, and the rest of the Gallus boys were out there as well. This was a short but hard-hitting match that Ridge Holland actually won. I was a little bit surprised about this, especially with the Gallus boys out there. I figured that Ridge would start this losing streak. Gallus would easily dominate, but Ridge got the victory. However, Gallus wins the war because post-match, the other two, Mark Coffey and Wolfgang, came in and beat the piss out of Ridge Holland along with Joe Coffey. I did find it the anonymous segments are only supposed to be teases. I didn't find it pointless as it furthered the Chase U story, making us think that JC is on a roll here and trying to save the university. But without really knowing what her plan is, context is key. So I didn't find the anonymous segment pointless, but I'd like a little bit more information as far as what exactly is going on. That would be interesting to see. Walter. I don't know who he could find at this point, but give it time. That's another fair point. I wouldn't say Holland is heel, but he came back to NXT to try to find himself and redefine himself. And I think this was the first step in that after the injury to Ilya Dragunov. We then had a Kaylani Jordan promo backstage, and the basic gist of this was she said that 2023 was the year she broke out, having been the winner of the breakout tournament. And in 2024, she is going to break through. Really good promo on her behalf. I like Kaylani Jordan. I see big things for her in the future. We then had a Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin segment, and it was funny because Corbin is being interviewed by Kelly, and Braun stumbles into him, and I guess Corbin had texted Braun that they had an interview at 9:30, and the segment was happening at 9 o'clock, so it was 30 minutes early. And Braun was kind of getting upset about it. They're going back and forth. Braun's showing the text message. And this definitely showed Braun in a different light. They had him work a little bit of humor. Braun at one point is talking about how he was thinking about Corbin and things that he said and talking about, he's in the shower thinking. And Corbin's like, wait a minute, you're thinking about me in the shower? No, I'm thinking about us. I'm thinking about the team. You're thinking about us in the shower? And just the whole thing turned into a great comedic bit and showed that Braun cannot take himself so seriously, which I think is important. It's a next development in his character. So many people were pissed that Braun didn't get drafted last year. They don't understand he had only been a babyface. He had just turned heel, was still new into his heel run when the draft happened. So now he's been this monster heel. Now he's doing this tag team thing with Corbin, and he's showing a little bit of comedic chops. We're trying to fine-tune the Braun Breaker gimmick before he goes up to the main roster. We know he can do certain things, but we need to make sure that he's well-rounded as a superstar. And this interview was perfect for that. It was so funny. Of course, Braun and Corbin are in the semifinals of the Dusty Classic. They'll be competing next week. We then had the final opening round match for the Dusty Classic. It was the Latino World Order, Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro with Zelina Vega, taking on my boys from Chase U, Duke Hudson, and Riley Osborne. This was a fantastic match to close out the first round of the Dusty Classic. Riley Osborne really got his chance to shine, and especially in the first part of the match before they went to the first commercial. When they came back from that commercial, Duke was doing a bunch of the stuff, and nothing against Duke, but I feel like the pace of the match really slowed down despite what he's able to do in the ring. But Riley Osborne was just on fire. So impressive. I too was surprised that Chase U didn't get this because I don't think the LWO needs it. The LWO is on the main roster. They don't need to be in the Dusty Cup Classic. I think a victory from Chase U in this would have done huge things to further their storyline and the whole trying to save the university. Going back to Braun and Corbin, this might be a good tag team, though. Even maybe they'll get to come to the main roster together. Who knows? Agreed. We then had the D'Angelo family backstage with Adriana, who's been with them for a little bit, just recently got name dropped. She's going to be in the Battle Royal. They're trying to hype her up because this is her first match. You know, it was a fun segment, nothing real major. You know, you talk about a pointless segment. I feel this was more pointless than the anonymous segment, if we're being honest. And I agree. Chase U needs the money. They're going to be pissed that they lost. They should have won so they could keep raising money for the university. I mean, they could have, as kind of messed up as this might sound, they could have ended up winning the tournament than selling the cup off to make the money, or gotten to the finals and then thrown the finals. You know, had something where the D'Angelo family talks to Chase U and says, hey, you know, if you throw the finals, your debt is cleared. And then have Chase U, you know, are they going to win? Or are they going to lose to try to save the university? Or are they going to win so they can get that title opportunity? Like, that's some riveting storytelling right there. We then had Joe Gacy come out and join the announce team with Vic Joseph and Booker T, and he's sitting there in like a beige sports coat and the whole nine. He's like, I'm not really sure what they're doing with Joe Gacy, but it's funny. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to enjoy it as the comedy keeps going. We then had Dijak versus Trey Bearhill, and this was basically just, it was a squash match at the end of the day. There was no way Trey Bearhill was going to get this. Dijak was able to look strong. Dijak has done a lot of putting people over in NXT, so it was kind of nice to see him get a victory. You know, I was watching it with some of the other people in the house here, and they weren't really getting it, but I think this was just kind of one of those, you know, Dijak deserves a victory every now and again, too. Yeah, exactly. True American dream. Sell off winnings to cover dirty debt. Shit writes itself. They could have bet money to help them out of various scenarios. Fair. Maybe we can do Chasey where the winner gets X amount of dollars, and when they lose the bag, they put up is full of IOUs. I would die laughing. We then had Josh Briggs backstage, and he's kind of watching his match back on his phone. And none other than the wrestling god himself, John Bradshaw Layfield, comes up and approaches him. And JBL asks him, what are you doing? And I'm watching my match back, seeing where I can improve. And JBL gives Briggs a heart-to-heart here, and it's probably the most babyface shit I've ever heard JBL say. Not Bradshaw, but the JBL character. And he's asking Briggs, like, do you know why I picked you for the breakout tournament? And Briggs is like, yeah, whoa, 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 whoa. And he basically repeats what JBL said in his video. And he's like, no, no, no. It's like, there came a point where I had to put the beer down, step away from the cards, and show the world who I was. I know what you can do, but you need to show the world who Josh Briggs is. Whatever that may be, you need to show the world who you really are. And it was just this inspiring moment from a guy who has been heel pretty much ever since he went to the JBL gimmick. Maybe there have been a couple of points on commentary where he made a babyface-esque comment, but ever since going to the JBL gimmick, JBL has just been an outright prick. This was a really cool, like, mentor-student almost moment. And I highly recommend looking it up. If you're not going to watch the full show, at least try to find that clip on socials and watch the segment, because there was something there that I really enjoyed. I don't know if we're going to get JBL managing Briggs like he was doing with Corbin for a while. And maybe that can even lead to something, JBL and Briggs bump into Corbin backstage at NXT now that Corbin has been down there. And JBL can be like, I tried to manage you and you were such a failure. You came back down to the minor leagues. This is my guy now, and have a Briggs versus Corbin match and then have Briggs beat him to help elevate Briggs. Like, there's some stuff we can do there, I think. That's fair, Jeff. I don't talk sports on here, but that's a fair. Main event time, and it was the women's battle royal, 20-woman battle royal with a twist. When it got down to the final four, it became a fatal four-way match. And this was just, I would say it's chaos, but battle royals are supposed to be chaos. This was some really good stuff, though. You had your typical double teams, you had your strange alliances, you had eliminations that could potentially start up stories. You had Kaylani Jordan. God, I'm tired. Kaylani Jordan basically had the Kofi Kingston / Naomi spot of the night, where she got thrown out, but her feet never hit the floor. She ended up getting put onto the announce table, and then I believe it was Naomi that did this. She got onto the barricade behind the announcers, walked to the barricade, jumped back on the stairs, and got back into the ring. So we revisited that segment. You had Thea Hale, who I'm sitting here cheering her on like I always do. People in my house don't really watch NXT, so they were kind of getting a load of this the first time, and Thea went on this tear where for like a good minute, maybe even a minute and a half, or at least it felt like it was that long. It could have been 30 seconds. But for what felt like a good minute and a half, she went on this tear, just beating the shit out of everybody, move to move to move, just decimating them, to where the rest of the people in the house were like, okay, I could see why you like her. And I was like, and she's only 20 years old. It's like she's doing all that, and she still has her prime well ahead of her. They were impressed. Get down to the Final Four, and the Final Four are Roxanne Perez, Fallon Henley, Kiana James, and Kaylani Jordan. And no disrespect to Roxanne Perez, who won the match. She's the one person I would have wanted to win it the least. Fallon deserves the push. Kaylani, I feel, is doing big things. She deserves the push. Even Kiana, I feel, deserved the push. Roxanne won the championship last year. Or no, she lost the title, excuse me, last year at Vengeance Day. Right? No. Because she defeated Mandy for it on an episode of NXT TV. I don't know. But in any event, someone needs to fact check me here, because I know there was something with Roxy last year at Vengeance Day. Let's see here. Okay, it was just a match. I thought there was something more. I don't know what stand and delivery is, Chris. But yeah, Roxanne just didn't need the title. Doesn't need the title match. But any of the other three would have been better in my personal opinion. It'll still be a good match. It'll be a great test for Lyra Valkyria, but Roxy just didn't need the victory, in my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know. We are going to that is about it for my episode for today. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back and sign off. We'll be right back in about 40 seconds. So those are all the specials that'll be coming up across the Jeff Meacham Network, Multiversa Media, in regards to our open mic night episodes. This weekend is our version of The Price is Right, as Emmanuel Dominguez defends his game night championship against Greg Cherry, against Stat Boy Mike, and I believe Walter Cruz is also going to be a part of that. He says, last week I said Roxy needs a heel turn or to get called up. It makes sense. I definitely think she's ready for the call up. I don't know if I buy a heel Roxy, but that's just me. I'd have to see it in action, you know. So got all that stuff coming up. Make sure you tune into the Greg Cherry show today. It'll be on the Greg Cherry brand as well as on the Jeff Meacham Network. It is not Jack of all trades, Luck of the Draw. Luck of the Draw tonight. It should be a whole lot of fun shenanigans over on the Great Cherry brand. It usually gets very, very messy for most of the combatants, and I believe they have either 5 or 6 different competitors this evening. Sorry, got distracted by a DM. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow when I will be doing my review of AEW Dynamite. Same bat time, same bat channel. And until then, I will see you guys tomorrow.
The Jeff Meacham Network's Multiverse of Media. For over 15 years, the recognized symbol of excellence and the standard bearer in coverage of sports and entertainment.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate you.